The shimmering vessel descended through Earth's atmosphere, leaving a trail of blue light across the morning sky. People around the world stopped and stared upward, many recording the event on their devices. This was not a scheduled satellite launch or a meteor shower. This was something entirely new. Dr. Jun Kim stood on the designated landing area in the International Neutral Zone, his heart pounding in his chest. After years of searching the stars for signals, after decades of humanity wondering if they were alone, the answer had arrived in spectacular fashion. The ship, about the size of a small passenger aircraft, touched down with barely a sound. "They're really here," whispered Dr. Kim to his colleague, Dr. Yoonji Choi. She nodded, clutching her tablet with white knuckles. The world watched through the eyes of the small welcome committee. Military forces stood at a respectful distance, present but not threatening. The United Earth Council had debated for 72 hours straight about how to handle this moment. A seam appeared in the smooth hull of the craft. Light spilled out from within, and then they emerged. 3 tall beings with blue-tinged skin that seemed to ripple like water moved with graceful, flowing steps. Their large eyes blinked slowly as they surveyed the humans before them. The tallest of the 3 raised a 6-fingered hand in what appeared to be a greeting. Dr. Kim stepped forward as instructed. "Welcome to Earth," he said, mirroring the gesture. The being's skin patterns shifted, glowing slightly. A small device on its chest hummed to life. "We are the Moralians," came a synthesized voice. "We come seeking sanctuary." Within hours, the Yaur news spread worldwide. The aliens called themselves Moralians, a peaceful species from a distant star system. They were refugees, fleeing from something they called the Vostran Empire. General Hana Park stood before the emergency session of the Yao United Earth Council 3 days later. The Moralians report that their homeworld and several colonies have been conquered by this empire. They've traveled through 17 star systems to reach us, believing Earth remote enough to be safe. "And why should we risk our planet for their problems?" asked Counselor Sung. Dr. Kim cleared his throat. "My team has made some remarkable discoveries about Moralian biology." He displayed images on the main screen. "Their cells can regenerate at rates we've never seen before. They've already willingly shared information that could help us cure several human diseases. They're offering a fair exchange," added Dr. Choi. "Medical knowledge for protection." The debate raged on. Some counselors argued that sheltering the Moralians might bring the wrath of an advanced empire upon Earth. Others pointed out that if such an empire existed, hiding would only delay the inevitable. "We should learn all we can from them," Counselor Min argued. "If this empire is as expansionist as the Moralians claim, we may need their knowledge to defend ourselves one day." On the 4th day, the council voted. Earth would grant asylum to the Moralians and establish a mutual defense agreement. Areas of the Pacific Ocean would be designated as Moralian settlements, as the aliens preferred aquatic environments. Dr. Kim was assigned as the primary human liaison. He met with the Moralian leader, who introduced himself as Dae-hyun. "Your people show great courage," Dae-hyun said. "The Vostrans are powerful and merciless." "We've faced existential threats before," Dr. Kim replied, "and we believe in helping those in need." As they spoke, Dae-hyun shared more about his people. They were scientists and artists, explorers who had developed interstellar travel centuries ago. They had lived peacefully until the Vostrans arrived, demanding their resources and technology. "We refused to help them build weapons," Dae-hyun explained, "so they took our worlds by force." That evening, Dr. Kim reported his findings to the council. "The Moralians are genuine refugees. Their technology is advanced but focused on healing and exploration, not warfare." What no one on Earth knew was that they were being watched. On the dark side of Neptune, a sleek black ship hovered silently. Inside, reptilian figures observed the transmissions from Earth with cold, calculating eyes. "The prey has found shelter with primitives," one said. "Inform the Empire," replied the commander. "The Moralians must not be allowed to share their regeneration technology, and these humans must learn their place in the galactic order." The message was sent, racing across the stars toward the approaching Vostran fleet. Earth had made its first alien allies, but in doing so, had also made its first alien enemies. The countdown to conflict had begun. The coastal city of New Busan transformed almost overnight. What had once been a quiet fishing port now bustled with scientists, diplomats, and curious visitors from around the world. Specially designed underwater, structures gleamed beneath the waves, connected to the shore by transparent tunnels. This was humanity's first alien embassy. Captain Minji Kwan adjusted her uniform as she walked through the main connecting tunnel. After 15 years in the United Earth Navy, she had seen many strange things, but nothing compared to this assignment. The walls of the tunnel were reinforced glass, offering views of Moralians swimming freely in the ocean alongside marine life. A tall Moralian with distinctive purple markings along his arms waited at the end of the tunnel. He raised his six-fingered hand in greeting. "Captain Kwan, welcome to Harmony Point," he said in nearly perfect Korean. The universal translators were impressive, but many Moralians had begun learning human languages directly. "Thank you for the invitation, Taiho," Minji replied with a small bow. "I'm honored to represent Earth's defense forces." Taiho led her through curved hallways where the architecture blended human and Moralian design. Other Moralians nodded respectfully as they passed. Some worked alongside humans at strange consoles that responded to touch and thought. "You've learned our language very quickly," Minji commented. "We have always been good at adaptation," Taiho replied. "It has helped us survive. Before the Vostrans came, we had peaceful exchanges with 12 different species. They entered a garden-like room, where water flowed down the walls and exotic plants grew in spiraling patterns. Small flying creatures that resembled luminescent jellyfish floated through the air. "These are memory keepers," Taiho explained, gesturing to the creatures. "They preserve our cultural history. We brought them from our home world before it fell." "How many worlds have the Vostrans taken?" Minji asked. Taiho's skin darkened slightly, a sign of sadness she had learned. 17 that we know of. They arrived at our homeworld claiming to seek trade. When they discovered our biotechnology, especially our regeneration science, they demanded we share everything. When we refused to help them create biological weapons, they attacked. A young human researcher approached with excitement. "Captain Kwan, you have to see this." Dr. Junho Park led them to a medical bay where human and Moralian scientists worked side by side. "We've successfully adapted Moralian cellular techniques to human tissue," he explained, showing them a display where damaged cells repaired themselves at remarkable speed. "This could mean cures for conditions we've struggled with for centuries." Over the following weeks, Minji found herself spending more time at Harmony Point. She learned about Moralian culture, their music that used water and light instead of sound, their three-dimensional writing system, their deep respect for ecological balance. In turn, she shared human history, both the triumphs and the failures. "Your species is very young," Taiho observed one evening as they watched the sunset from the observation deck. "But you learn quickly." "Sometimes too slowly," Minji replied. "We nearly destroyed ourselves several times before forming the United Earth Council." "That is the path of growth," Taiho said. The Vostrans took a different path. They believed that strength comes from domination rather than cooperation. News reports showed Moralian settlements establishing in oceans around the world. Their presence had sparked new industries and technologies. Water purification systems based on Moralian biology were cleaning polluted areas. Medical breakthroughs were announced almost weekly. Not everyone welcomed the changes. Protest groups formed, claiming that humanity was becoming too dependent on alien technology. Others feared that Earth would become a target for the Vostran Empire. Minji was discussing these concerns with Taiho when emergency alerts sounded throughout the facility. They rushed to the command center where screens showed a massive object entering the solar system. "Is it them?" Minji asked, though she already knew the answer. Taiho's skin paled to nearly white. "The Vostrans never stop hunting. We hoped we had hidden our trail better." 3 days later, the Vostran diplomatic vessel entered Earth orbit. It was 4 times larger than anything humans had ever built in space. its hull covered with weapons, arrays barely disguised as navigation equipment. The message that came from the ship was broadcast worldwide. People of Earth, you harbor fugitives from Vostron justice. The species you call Moralians have stolen technology that rightfully belongs to the Empire. Surrender them immediately. In the underwater chamber where the United Earth Council had gathered with Moralian representatives, Taiho stood before the assembled leaders. What they seek is not technology, but our bodies themselves, he explained, his voice heavy. Their species cannot regenerate naturally. They harvest other species to extend their lives. As the implications sank in, automated systems detected smaller Vostron ships approaching Earth's atmosphere. The cultural exchange was over. The ultimatum had begun. The hologram of the Vostron ambassador filled the center of the United Earth Council chamber. Standing over 3 meters tall, the reptilian figure looked down at the assembled human leaders with vertical pupils that narrowed in contempt. Its scaled skin was deep crimson with black ridges along its face and arms. When it spoke, rows of sharp teeth flashed. You have sheltered criminals against the Empire, the ambassador hissed, its translator giving the words a metallic quality. The Moralians possess biological knowledge that belongs to us by right of conquest. Surrender them within 3 of your planetary rotations, or we will take them by force. Council President Jiwoo Kang maintained a calm expression despite the threat. The Moralians came to us peacefully. They have shared their knowledge freely and become our allies. We do not recognize your claim. The Vostron made a sound between a laugh and a snarl. Your primitive weapons cannot stand against the Empire. We have conquered 17 worlds more advanced than yours. This is not a negotiation. It is mercy that we offer you this chance to surrender the fugitives. The hologram vanished, leaving the chamber in tense silence. Admiral Do-Yoon Lee immediately activated the tactical displays. Satellite imagery showed the massive Vostron command, ship in orbit, but more concerning were the readings from the outer solar system. A fleet of at least 30 warships had taken position beyond Mars, each one larger than anything in Earth's combined forces. They could have attacked immediately, noted General Hisu Cho. Why give us 3 days? They're scanning our defenses, Admiral Lee replied. And they're arrogant. They've never faced serious resistance before. In the underwater section of the chamber, Do-Hyun, the Moralian ambassador, spoke with sorrow in his voice. We should perhaps surrender ourselves. We did not come here to bring destruction to your world. That is not an option, President Kang stated firmly. If we surrender your people, the Vostrons will not stop there. They will see Earth as weak and take whatever else they want. Admiral Lee studied the preliminary analysis of the Vostron ships. Their technology is advanced, but their tactics are predictable. They rely on overwhelming force rather than strategy. They expect us to either surrender or attempt conventional defense. Then we must be unconventional, said Captain Minji Kwan, who had been invited to the council due to her experience with both species. The Moralians have helped us improve our technology in ways the Vostrons don't expect. Over the next 48 hours, Earth's military forces prepared under Admiral Lee's direction. The Moralians shared everything they knew about Vostron weaponry and weaknesses. Scientists and engineers worked without rest to integrate Moralian biotechnology with human weapon systems. On the final day before the deadline, Admiral Lee stood before the United Earth Council. Maps showing defensive positions around the globe filled the screens behind him. Project Aegis is ready, he announced. We've established bioshield generators at 42 points around the planet. If they work as our tests indicate, they can absorb energy from Vostron weapons and redirect it. And if they don't work, asked a counselor. Admiral Lee's expression remained stoic. Then we fight with everything we have. As the deadline approached, Admiral Lee took command of the orbital defense platform. From there, he could coordinate all of Earth's forces. The Vostron command ship had moved closer, its weapon systems visibly charging. The communications officer signaled an incoming transmission. The Vostron ambassador appeared again on screen. Your time has expired, it said. What is your answer? Admiral Lee stepped forward. Though he was a small man by human standards, his voice carried the weight of Earth's unified resolve. Earth protects its own, he stated. The Moralians are under our protection. There will be no second warning. The Vostran's mouth opened in what might have been amusement. Warning? You warn the Empire? Your primitive species barely understands space travel. What possible threat could you pose? That's the interesting thing about humans, Admiral Lee replied calmly. We've spent most of our history fighting each other. We've become very good at war. The Moralians are peaceful. They sought help from a species that understands conflict all too well. The Vostran's expression changed slightly, perhaps registering confusion at this unexpected response. You have made your choice, it said finally. The Empire will take what it wants, as it always has. As the transmission ended, Admiral Lee gave the order to activate Project Aegis. Across the planet, the hybrid human-Moralian defense systems came online. The bioshields formed an invisible barrier around Earth, pulsing with energy that couldn't be detected by conventional sensors. In the silence of the command center, Admiral Lee watched as the Vostran fleet began to move toward Earth. They think we're defenseless, he said quietly. Let them come. The first Vostran warships entered Earth's atmosphere as the sun rose over the Pacific Ocean. The incursion had begun. The Vostran warships cut through Earth's atmosphere like massive knives, their hull designs clearly meant to intimidate as much as function. 5 capital ships led the assault, each the size of a small city, with dozens of smaller craft swarming around them. They descended in perfect formation, targeting major cities and defense installations with precision that spoke of centuries of conquest. Lieutenant Sumin Yoon sat in the cockpit of her fighter, one of hundreds hidden beneath the ocean's surface, in launch bays disguised as research facilities. Her hands gripped the controls, a blend of traditional interfaces and new Moralian bio-responsive systems that felt warm under her touch. All wings, hold positions, came Admiral Lee's voice, over the comm. Let them commit to their attack pattern. Suman watched her display as the Vostran ships spread across the globe. They were following textbook invasion protocol, establishing air superiority before landing ground forces. What they didn't know was that Earth had been preparing for this moment since the Moralians had first explained Vostran tactics. Therbo, deploying energy weapons, reported the tactical officer on the command channel, targeting our visible military bases. The Vostrans fired, and brilliant beams of energy lanced down from their ships. They struck the bioshields and seemed to disappear, absorbed completely. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the shields pulsed, redirecting the energy into the ground where specialized conductors stored it for Earth's use. They're confused, said Suman's wingman Junho with a note of satisfaction. Look at their flight patterns. The Vostran ships hovered, firing again with greater intensity. Again, the bioshields absorbed the attacks without visible effect. The invaders had never encountered such defense before. All wings, prepare for Phase 2, Admiral Lee ordered. Remember your training. Their ships are powerful but slow to maneuver. Suman took a deep breath as her launch bay doors opened beneath the ocean. Water drained rapidly as her squadron prepared for takeoff. Wing 7 launching now. Hundreds of fighters erupted from the sea simultaneously around the globe, catching the Vostran fleet completely by surprise. The Earth craft were smaller and seemingly primitive compared to the alien technology, but they moved with incredible speed and agility, enhanced by Moralian biotech. Suman's fighter shot upward, water streaming off its wings before she banked sharply toward the nearest Vostran destroyer. Her targeting system locked onto the vessel's propulsion nodes, a weakness the Moralians had identified. Target their engine arrays, she instructed her squadron. 3-point attack pattern. The Earth fighters darted around the massive alien, ships like angry insects too small and quick to be caught by the Vostran's main weapons. They fired concentrated pulses of the alien's own energy, redirected from the earlier attacks and focused through crystals grown from Moralian biotechnology. One of the Vostran destroyers listed sideways as Suman's squadron disabled its starboard engines. The alien vessel fired wildly, its crew clearly unprepared for such resistance from what they had dismissed as a primitive species. Across the globe, similar scenes played out. Earth's forces had the advantage of fighting on their home territory, using tactics the Vostrans had never encountered, rather than meeting the invaders head-on with comparable firepower, which Earth didn't possess. They struck with precision at weak points. Admiral Lee watched from the command center as the battle unfolded. "Status report," he ordered. "3 enemy capital ships damaged, 1 critically," came the response. "Our casualties at 18%, lower than projected." For a moment, hope flared. But the Vostrans were experienced conquerors. They adapted, quickly, changing formation to protect their vulnerabilities. And they still possessed overwhelming firepower. A new alert sounded. "Admiral, a Vostran destroyer has broken through our defensive line off the Pacific coast. They're heading directly for the main Moralian settlement." Captain Minji Kwan was already moving her vessel to intercept. The Yuan Defender was a hybrid craft, designed to operate both underwater and in low atmosphere. As the civilian evacuation of the Moralian settlement began, she positioned her ship between the vulnerable underwater city and the approaching Vostran. "Destroyer, get everyone to the shelters," she radioed to Taiho, who was coordinating the evacuation. "We'll hold them off." The Vostran ship was 10 times the size of the Defender, its weapons charging for what would be a devastating attack on the underwater settlement. Captain Kwan assessed her options with calm clarity. Her vessel couldn't outgun the destroyer, but it carried an experimental weapon, a concentrated bioshield that could potentially overload when struck by Vostran energy weapons. "All hands, prepare for impact maneuvers," she ordered. "Divert all power to forward shields." The Defender accelerated directly toward the Vostran vessel, its small size allowing it to evade the initial barrage of fire. "They're targeting the settlement," called her tactical officer. "Not today," Kwan said quietly, and pushed her engines to maximum. The Defender slammed into the Vostran destroyer's main weapon array just as it fired, the bioshield interacting with the energy discharge and creating a cascading overload that tore through both ships. The last thing Captain Kwan saw was a brilliant flash of light as her vessel's sacrifice disrupted the Vostran attack and saved thousands of Moralian lives. Above Earth, the tide of battle was turning, though at great cost. Humanity had proven that it would not surrender without a fight, and that it would protect its allies to the last. The morning sun cast long shadows across the memorial garden as Admiral Do-Yoon Lee walked slowly among the stone markers. 3 months had passed since the Vostran fleet had retreated from Earth's orbit, leaving behind destruction and an unexpected victory. The garden had been built on a small island in the Pacific, halfway between the main human and Moralian settlements. Admiral Lee stopped at a particular marker, one bearing the name of Captain Minji Kwan. Fresh flowers surrounded it, some from Earth and others glowing with soft bioluminescence, clearly of Moralian origin. "She saved thousands," said a voice behind him. Lee turned to see Taiho, the Moralian cultural attaché who had worked closely with Captain Kwan. "She did what any of us would have done," Lee replied. "But that doesn't make the loss easier." They stood in silence for a moment, human and alien united in respect for the fallen. The final battle had taken many lives on both sides, yet against all odds, Earth had prevailed. The Vostran fleet had withdrawn with heavy losses, over 60% of their ships damaged or destroyed. "The council meeting begins soon," Taiho said finally. "The new ambassador is waiting." They walked together toward the gleaming building that served as Earth's new diplomatic hub. Inside, representatives from around the world had gathered, along with the new Moralian ambassador Jihoon. But they weren't alone. 3 other alien species had sent representatives after news of Earth's victory spread through nearby star systems. The defeat of the feared Vostran Empire by a supposedly primitive world had sent shockwaves through galactic society. President Jiwoo Kang called the meeting to order. "Today we welcome our friends from distant worlds," she said, "and we remember the price paid for our freedom." Admiral Lee delivered his final report on the conflict. "The Vostran Empire has withdrawn completely from our solar system. Our long-range sensors show no signs of their return. Intelligence gathered from our new allies suggests they are dealing with rebellions on 3 of their conquered worlds." Jihoon, stepped forward, his skin patterns glowing with formal colors. "What you call a simple defense, the galaxy calls a miracle," he said. "No species has successfully repelled a full Vostran invasion force in over 400 years. The news has inspired hope among all those oppressed by the Empire." A tall crystalline being, representative of the Lumari species, spoke next. "For 3 generations my people have paid tribute to the Vostrans. Now we seek alliance with Earth. You have proven that cooperation is stronger than conquest." Similar sentiments came from the other alien representatives. Earth, in defending itself and its Moralian allies, had unknowingly struck a blow against a tyranny that spanned dozens of star systems. After the formal meeting, Admiral Lee sat with Taiho on a balcony overlooking the ocean, where human and Moralian craft moved peacefully together. "Did you know this would happen?" Lee asked. "That by helping your people we would become a symbol to others?" Taiho's skin rippled thoughtfully. "We hoped for sanctuary, not galactic revolution," he admitted. "But perhaps this was inevitable. The Vostrans built their empire on the belief that younger species are inherently inferior. You proved them wrong. 6 months later, the first human diplomatic vessel prepared to depart for the newly formed Galactic Council. Earth had been invited to take a seat, unprecedented for a species that had achieved interstellar travel less than a year earlier. Dr. Jun Kim, who had greeted the first Moralians, now led the human delegation. Before boarding, he visited the memorial garden, where Captain Kwan's marker had been joined by a statue depicting a human and Moralian standing side by side. Taiho accompanied him, now serving as Joint Earth-Moralian Ambassador. "Are you nervous?" he asked. "Terrified," Dr. Kim admitted with a smile. "We're still learning so much about the galaxy." "Yet you have already taught the galaxy something valuable," Taiho replied. "The Vostrans have withdrawn from 3 more worlds since their defeat here. Species that never dared to resist are finding courage in your example." As they prepared to leave, a small Moralian ceremony began near Captain Kwan's memorial. Survivors from the settlement she had saved placed luminescent algae and patterns around her marker, forming traditional blessing symbols. "What does it mean?" Dr. Kim asked, watching the glowing patterns take shape. "It is our highest honor," Taiho explained. "It means one who gave everything for others. There is no greater respect in our culture." The Earth delegation departed. The next day, carrying with them the story of how humanity had faced an overwhelming enemy and refused to abandon their allies. As their ship accelerated toward the stars, communications arrived from systems throughout the sector, all with variations of the same message. Earth was welcome. The species that had stood alone against an empire had earned a reputation that spread faster than light across the galaxy. They give only one warning: they protect their own, and their definition of their own includes anyone they call friend. The Vostran Empire never again ventured into Earth's solar system. One demonstration had been enough.